Have you ever been stuck in one of those arguments that just goes nowhere? You know the kind, where you're just talking in circles, and you walk away feeling like it was a total waste of time? Well, believe it or not, a really simple experiment, one designed just to teach an AI about colors, it accidentally stumbled upon a huge secret about why that happens, and more importantly, how you can stop it.
Okay, so let's get into it. The whole thing started with a researcher who had what sounds like a pretty straightforward goal. What's the best way to teach an AI how to recognize colors? The setup itself was pretty simple, but what they learned from it was, well, it was surprisingly deep.
So the researchers set up 3 different AI models. First, you've got what we can call the all-in model. This one got the whole shebang, a complete data set with every color you can think of. Then there was the minimalist model, which was only shown 2 colors, red and blue. That's it. And finally, there was a third model, which was basically the minimalist one with a small upgrade. It got red and blue, but also a few similar shades, like orange and sky blue. So, 3 different ways to learn, to see which one would come out on top.
And when the results came in, wow, it wasn't even close. The all-in model, the one that got all the data, was an absolute superstar. We're talking 95% accuracy. The model that only saw red and blue, it lagged way behind at 80%. And what about adding those few extra colors? It barely made a dent, nudging the score up just a tiny bit to 82%.
So the conclusion here was crystal clear. I mean, there was no room for debate. The experiment proved one thing beyond a shadow of a doubt. If you want the best performance, you've got to go with the most complete approach. The all-in model was the superior solution, hands down. Case closed, or, so it seemed.
Right after presenting these really clear results, someone in the audience raised their hand. And the question they asked is what completely flipped the entire lesson of this experiment on its head.
Here's the question. Couldn't adding just a few more colors to the red/blue model make it even better? Now, on the surface, that sounds totally logical, doesn't it? A pretty reasonable suggestion for how to improve things.
But was it really a good question? Or was it something else entirely? Think about it. Was this a genuine attempt to find the best possible solution? Or was it just a total distraction from the real answer that was literally staring everyone right in the face? And this was the big aha moment for the researcher. That question wasn't constructive at all. It was nitpicking. It was all about pouring energy into making tiny, insignificant little tweaks to a fundamentally broken, inferior model while completely ignoring the proven, high-performing solution that was right there. It's the kind of question that doesn't build anything new, it just distracts.
And this is where it all clicks together and gets really, really powerful. The researcher realized this whole thing wasn't just about training AI models. No, this was a perfect metaphor for how we humans argue, for how project meetings run, for pretty much any kind of debate. This insight basically splits all feedback into 2 camps. On one side, you have constructive questions. These are the questions that focus on the best model, the 95% winner. They ask, this is great, how can we make this proven success even better? But on the other side, you've got the nitpicking questions. They are obsessed with the broken 80% model. They ask, yeah, but how can we patch up this flawed thing? One is about real progress, the other is just spinning your wheels.
And that brings us to the absolute heart of the matter. In any debate, any discussion, the only question that really moves the needle is about improving the essence. It's about taking the thing we already know works, the best solution we have, and asking how we can build on that. Anything else, it's pretty much just noise.
Now, this pattern isn't just stuck in some lab experiment. It's happening all the time. In our offices, in our team meetings, every single day. And I promise you, once you learn to spot it, you won't be able to unsee it.
So picture this. You're in a project meeting. You've just shown everyone that a new automation system is working at 95% accuracy, which is fantastic, but the old, clunky system is stuck down at 80%. And then a team member pipes up and asks, but can't we just try adding a little more data to the 80% model to see if we can improve it? See? That's nitpicking in action. They're trying to fix the broken thing instead of just embracing the one that's already winning.
Or how about this one? Your team rolls out a new process, and it's a huge success. It's been proven to save 2 hours of work on every single task. A major win. But then in the feedback session, someone says, okay, but what if we just tweaked this one tiny step over here? Do you think maybe we could save another 10 minutes? Again, they're zeroing in on a tiny detail of a flawed alternative, totally missing the massive success you've already achieved.
So here's the bottom line. These kinds of questions, they feel productive, but they're not. They don't move the project forward 1 inch. All they really do is derail the conversation, distract the entire team from the real solution, and just suck all the energy right out of the room.
So the big question is, what do you do when you find yourself face-to-face with a nitpicker? Well, the good news is there's actually a super simple, really effective strategy you can use to handle it without getting sucked into a pointless, draining argument.
It's a simple three-step process. First, just identify what's happening. Ask yourself, is this question about our 95% solution, or are we back to talking about the 80% one? Second, acknowledge their point very briefly, but then immediately redirect the conversation. Something simple like, that's an interesting thought, but right now our focus really needs to be on implementing the solution that we already know is the most effective. And third, and this is key, disengage. Don't take the bait. State your conclusion and move the conversation forward. And this strategy is just so powerful because it flat out works. It respects everyone's time and energy by keeping the conversation laser-focused on what actually matters. You get to avoid getting bogged down in useless conflict, and it totally empowers you to be the person who leads discussions toward productive, meaningful outcomes. So the next time you find yourself in a meeting, a debate, any kind of discussion, just ask yourself this. Are we talking about how to make our best solution even better, or are we just nitpicking a flawed one? Because I guarantee you, knowing the difference might just save you from some of the most draining conversations of your life. So which ones are you wasting energy on?